Welcome to the latest episode of the Home Podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a recipe for a rice porridge dish called congee that we have used in our clinic since we were acupuncture students. And this porridge is a very healthy dish and a great way to start every morning. It is something that is derived from a traditional recipe in Asia called congee or juk. And that recipe in Asia, it tends to be very simple. It is a porridge that is made from usually brown rice and cooked for a long time, often added a little bit of meat or some sort of savory veggies, and it is used as a quick meal in the morning for people before they go to work. Here in America and in our clinic, we've zhuzhed it up quite a bit, and our congee recipe tends to be a lot more diverse with a lot more flavor. And the recipe I'm going to show you is one of my favorites, but as you can see from the handout that I have attached to this, the congee handout, that there are many other options for you to cook this. So anyway, I'm going to start off by showing you, this is the end result. It is bubbling in the morning after about 8 hours of cooking in a small crock pot. That's about a 1.5 quart crock pot, and it was set to low. This is how the grains look in the mason jar, and I have a 64-ounce mason jar that I create every few months to make my life easier so I don't have to mix the grains every morning, and I'm about to go over what those grains are. This is a picture of the juk as you would see in a traditional Chinese restaurant or in a kitchen at home. Okay, so the base of congee is usually best a medium grain brown rice. Everything that you use in this should be organic, so I'm not going to say organic every time, but medium grain brown rice. What's nice about the medium or even short grained rice is that it has a lot more starch, so when it actually breaks down overnight, it becomes very creamy and very rich tasting. To that, and you could actually just have congee basically with that. You don't have to add anything else. You can add other spices. You can even make it savory. That would be the traditional way. But in our household, we actually then add a bunch of other grains. And the most common that we add is a wild rice blend. And it's quite nice. It has a lot of texture. It's got some different flavors, and it has a different color. So when you actually open up in the morning, you're not just looking at some white porridge. You have some interesting colors. There's actually a red wild rice that is quite yummy. Just cooking it normally, but in the congee, it really brings out a lot of the wonderful textures and flavors that you're looking for. The next and very important grain helps to boost the protein content of your breakfast by quite a bit is some form of quinoa. I usually use the tricolor quinoa also to get a better color and some interesting texture. Quinoa usually dissolves into mush when it actually is cooked any length of time, but it has a slippery quality to it that is actually quite nice, and with that it actually brings smoothness to the congee that is missing when you have just the rices. Now, very important detail, as you'll see later, I'm washing the grains, but the very important detail with quinoa, anytime you cook quinoa, you have got to wash that grain. It has a soapy exterior that if you cook it dry from a bag, you are going to have a very nasty tasting brew. I've done that a few times and just ruined my whole breakfast by having this very soapy nature to the congee. So. The other one that's very common we love is hulled barley. Hulled barley is the most whole form of barley that you can normally get at a grocery store. And it has a really wonderful texture. It gets nice and fluffy and plump and gives you, it almost looks like little pieces of rice, except of course it's barley that doesn't dissolve completely. Another one that's really good, great for your body and great for your digestive system is a grain called millet. And if you haven't cooked millet by itself, you should really look into it. It's a great replacement for rice, and even you can make it into a mashed potato style, and it has a much more protein-rich quality than regular rice and potatoes. In this millet, it also brings a nice nutty flavor to the congee when you're adding that in. Last but not least is brown buckwheat. Now that is something I've only been adding lately. It gives it definitely a nuttier quality to it, and it actually has again a higher protein content. So what I'm trying to do with my breakfast, I want to bump up my protein and lower my simple carbs. And congee just in general is a great way to have a high protein breakfast that isn't some form of meat or eggs, and also very much digests incredibly well. All right, so now the fun part. Before you ever make your first pound of congee, if you're going to do it like we do, then dump them all into a container of some form. Here's the brown rice being added. And I usually do about a pound of each one. And then this next one is the wild rice being added. Now, in this particular situation, I was making sure that it all gets used up there. That wild rice one is really yummy. Okay, the next one, of course, is quinoa, and you can't have too much of that as long as you wash it. Now the barley. We want to add the last bit, buckwheat and millet, and in this case I only used half of the pound of buckwheat. I wasn't sure if I wanted to overwhelm the congee mix with the flavor of the buckwheat. So, okay, and now the fun part. You actually need to mix these grains all together, get them all combined, so that when you pour them out in the evening before bed, you can actually have a mix and not have to worry about getting one that tastes more than the other. I then go and spoon these all into a big 64-ounce mason jar. In fact, oftentimes I'll make a couple of mason jars and just keep them in the pantry. It's so nice to be able to prep once and then use something for months, and the convenience is definitely worth that little bit of time. Okay, so here's a big mason jar filled, and it's ready for us to start cooking. All right, the first step is to pour out a serving of the grains that you're going to be cooking. And so the first thing to do is pour out a serving of the grains that you can put in the crock pot. I use about 3/4 of a cup of grains. You can use less and make it more watery. If you use much more than that for this particular recipe, it's going to get pretty sticky, gooey in the nose. So then, as I said before, make sure that you rinse the grains really well. Now, the next stage is to put it all together. I'm going to be adding a can of organic coconut milk. It's amazing to have that much coconut milk in your congee. You could definitely live with less and replace it with water, but I kind of like that rich and creamy, and then again, I'm adding a lot more oil to my breakfast, so it creates a healthier mix of nutrients. The other very important ingredient that you have to do anytime you cook grains is add a little bit of salt. So I usually add a pinch of salt, and in order to sweeten the congee, I use organic dark brown sugar. Gives it a very rich flavor. And my congee is relatively sweet. It's definitely going to taste like a normal oatmeal sweetness. And yet, if you don't want to add sugar, or if you want to have it a savory, you could actually just tone down the spices and change the flavors. You could even make a little bit of spiciness in the morning. But my congee tends to be an Americanized version, so it definitely has a sweet and spicy flavor to it. I do everything by eye. I rarely ever measure everything out, and so as you're going to be dealing with your congee, you're going to have times when you oversweeten or undersweeten and overspice, and you know, just have fun with it. I've developed this recipe over decades, so there might be times when it's great one morning and then it's just okay the next time. Now, spice-wise, you can see the amount I'm putting into this recipe is actually quite a bit. That is a heaping tablespoon of ginger, another tablespoon of cinnamon, and almost a full, maybe a half a tablespoon of cardamom. Cardamom is just the ultimate flavor when it comes to creating that congee richness. At some point then, now you're going to add back in, stir up the spices and add back in the grains that you've rinsed. When I was doing this video, I actually missed that picture, so just pretend I'm putting in some grains right now. And then the last stage is going to be adding more water. Adding a can of water. Usually my ratio is 1 can of coconut milk and 1 can of water. And I usually put it right in the coconut milk container so I can get the last little bits of juiciness out of that coconut milk. So now the next thing you do is you got to make sure you plug that little crock pot in. I switch it to low. This brand here seems to be really good. It's Bella, and I found it on Amazon, and honestly it had some really good reviews, so that's why I bought it. So put it on low. I usually start my congee around 9 p.m. at night, and then it cooks all the way into the morning, and when I get up about 5 I check on it, and I might turn it off then, or I might just let it sit and simmer for another couple hours before we eat it. So then here it is in the morning. At the first light of morning, as you see this little thing of congee. Of course, you smelled it before you even walked downstairs because the aroma is absolutely fabulous. So now, once you've actually created the congee and you spoon it into some bowls, you're going to want to put a little bit of more stuff on it. We love to add shredded coconut flakes. We add some sort of nut like sliced almonds or red walnuts or pecans. You can also just zhuzh it up however you want. There's other people who will put different fruits in it, like dates or even lysine berries, goji berries. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the congee recipe. This is the first time I've given a recipe out on my Substack podcast, so I hope it goes well. Please make sure you give me some great comments and let me know if you have any ideas or questions on different types of congee. When we were acupuncture students, we had a congee festival where everybody had to bring in their favorite congee recipe pre-cooked, and we sat every morning and ate everybody else's congee. It was quite an experience. So anyway, thank you very much for listening to this podcast, and welcome home.